Okay, so we're going to try to make a quick sikkum of most of Siman Tzadik Ches today. Try to get through the first 6 sekim of Siman Tzadik Ches. This is material which was already learned, so which I'm just going to go a little bit quick, go a little bit more quickly. Just more of a refresher. Try to make it a little quick cover quickly the ground that we covered and just refresh the chayim. Here's an overview of Taruvos. Taruvos we have here. Tzadik Tes is going to discuss the dinim of bittul b'shishim. How do you what's the din of bittul b'shishim? How you calculate the shishim? Halachas of bittul isur lechatchila. Siman Kuf Tes, which we still don't learn, is going to be bittul b'roiv. In the middle section, we have this pashtus tama isur. We did do Kuf Gimel in this time of Gam. Kuf Hey Kovav Kozayin is the how the isur in if it's kavush mevushal sliya malicha. That's going to be we're learning those simanim. Kuf Aleph Kuf Beis Kuf Yud, that's Dvarim Chashuvim. We learned a big part of it. Kuf Aleph Beis we learned, and Siman Kuf Yud is it's Davar Chashuv, which was Parush from the Taruvos. We'll see later on Siman Kuf Yud. That's an overview of Hilchos Taruvos. Now, when we're discussing the halachas of Taruvos, we have to remember that whenever we're discussing Taruvos, we need to know two things. We need to know, first of all, what type of Taruvos we're talking about. Are we talking about a Taruvos of min b'minay, or is it a Taruvos of min m'she'ein minay? Which means min b'minay means the same exact type. For example, if you have two hot dogs, one was a kosher, one was a treifet, the same exact hot dog. Got mixed. That's considered min b'minay. If it's min m'she'ein minay, it is a different type of mixture, which means it's a piece of meat which fell into a pot of vegetables. It's a different type of meat. So every type of taruvos that we're going to encounter, we're going to have to first of all identify if it's a min b'minay or it's a min m'she'ein minay. That's number one. Number two, we're going to try to identify the way it got. The way the Taruvos was, it could be either it's lach balach, which means it gave a taste. It wasn't only isolated together without heat, without a mixture, and therefore, or if it's hot dogs, it would mean if it's hot dogs, then it would mean that it was cooked together. That's so it became lach balach. It gave over a taste, or it could be lach balach could be mamish liquid, but in a way that it gave over a taste. Yavish, which is in a way that it was isolated and it wasn't put together and it didn't give a taste. If you have the two hot dogs, one next to each other, and they were not cooked together, are you allowed to eat them or not? So that's the first two things we're always going to have to identify. We're talking about Taruvos. We have to first understand the metzias. We'll see later on, there is going to be certain type of discussions. What are we going to consider min b'minay? What's not considered min m'she'ein minay? We're going to have a few, in order to be magder clearly what exactly is a min b'minay, what isn't. There's going to be various opinions. But first of all, these are the two identifications we have to first know when we're encountering a question of this or better. Is it min b'minay or it's not min m'she'ein minay? And is it lach balach or is it yavish b'yavish? Now, one of the dividends that we had here from the Ramah, when we're coming to discuss what is considered min b'minay, what is min m'she'ein minay. Usually it's clear. If you have here the example of the piece of meat which fell into a pot of vegetables, it's clearly two separate minim. It's not considered the same min. What is It's not considered the same min. What happens if I have grape juice and grapes? Here it's already two different names. This is called grapes, this is called grape juice. But the taste has the exact same taste. When the grape juice right away before it became wine. Before it became wine, is grape juice. It's the same exact taste. Do I consider it min b'minay or do I consider it min b'she'enei minay? Here came the Rama in Siv Beis and said that min b'she'enei min, that we're going to consider this min b'she'enei minay. We're going to consider it two different names. Since it's considered, this is called grapes, this is called grape juice, we're going to consider two different names. Shach disagreed with the Rama. The Shach disagreed with the Rama. The Shach says that we go according to the taste. We don't go according to the name, but rather we go according to the taste. Now, what is the you say to the machlekes? You say to the machlekes is in the Gemara we have Rava. Machlekes between Abaye and Rava. Just a quick reminder of Abaye and Rava in the Gemara. Do we go according to the name or do we go according to the taste? And Rava's talk is the one who goes according to the name. Rava says if it has a different name, we go like over here. We have the grapes and the grape juice. We go according to the name, and we consider it mimisheni minute. So l'chora the Rama. Let's go start with the Rama. The Rama l'chora has a makar. The makar is Rava. Rava's take holds we go according to the name. So that's why the Rama said if you have grapes and grape juice, we consider it min b'she'enei minay, and we would be more machmer, like we'll soon see in the pratim of the min b'she'enei minay. We'll be machmer in such a Taruvos like we consider it min b'she'enei minay. Shach says. There's Ma'idich, and it says that sugi there is talking about. We're not talking about the din of min b'she'enei minay. We're not talking about a regular case. If we're talking about a regular isser is only we go according to the taste. We go according to the time, because we have over here a certain the way it's thought out is we go according to the taste. Every time you have an isser, the isser is spread out. We go according to the taste. So why would we care what the name is? So therefore, the Shach holds that we always go according to the taste. But there in the Gemara is speaking about a case where it's min b'minoi is not batal is more than shishin. In the case of there, you have yain of a vedazara or any other case where sometimes it's in truma it's meya or kilei kerem is matayim. There, whenever it's more than 60, which means we're not going according to the taste. If we're not going according to the taste, over there we could identify by name. And Taka mentioned in Simon Kov Beis, which is not batal afilu be'elef. Over there, Taka, the Rav agrees that we go according to the Rav. That's what Rav was speaking about. We go according to the name, and we consider it min b'she'enei minay. And regarding to Dvarim Shesh Lematirin, if we said it brought over there, because that's what the Shach says. That's what I was talking about. But in a regular case, we're not talking about min b'she'enei minay because it's a regular case. We go according to the taste. So what's the difference? What's the name is? We need shishi. We need a taste. If it's an heter mixed in and it gives a taste, I don't care that it's two different names. For example, if we have two apples, one apple is sour, one apple is sweet. An apple of the sour is an isur. Yeah, let's say it's isur arla, and one is and mix it to 100 regular apples. So the fact that we both call them apple, and therefore it's going to be considered min b'minay. Two different tastes, and it gives a taste. The taste of the isur is felt. One is sweet, one is sour. It's the taste of the isser is felt within the Taruvos over here. If it gets cooked together. So therefore, Rava says, Shach says, Allah says that we go always according to the taste. The Taz explain that, and therefore wine and grape juice in this case is considered min b'minay, because I don't care that it has two different names, it has the same taste, it can be considered min b'minay, and the Rama is going to hold that it's called min b'she'enei minay. The Taz does explain the Rama. He says that the Taz is in Daf Achrim. The Taz was much older than the Shach. The Taz was 80 years old. he was in charge of the Vad Arba Rotzis, who was considered then the elderly Pesach. He was already 80 when he put out his sefer. The Shach was only 30. But the Taz did see a few pirushim of the Shach, and he wrote what's called Daf Achrin. He wrote on the Shach, had a few responses back and forth. So it's called Daf Achrin. Here the Taz explains that the Ramah didn't mean if in the case that we brought, we stuck at two separate different tastes totally. There the Ramah is also going to hold them according to the taste. Only if it's similar within sour apples itself, it's a little different. Only there do we say that the taste is more or less close. There we go according to the name, but otherwise in a regular case we go according to the taste. That's the machlekes between the Ramah and the Shach. How do we consider what's the hagdara of min b'minay or min b'she'enoi minay? La'alacha, the Alter Rebbe Paskins and other Paskin, other Achrein that we go min b'minay is only according to the tam. In the case where the Isser is Nisbatal B'Shishim, we need only the time, we don't go according to the name. But in those halachas that we don't, it's not Batal B'Shishim like Yain Nesech with grapes, or like I said, there we go, Min B'Minay go according to the name and not according to the time, because it's not Isser of time. Here we're going to consider grapes and grape juice two separate, meaning we're going to consider it Min B'She'enei Min. Now, going back to the Agdara, so that's the Agdara of what? Of Min B'Minay Minay. Now, what's the Agdara of Yavish B'Yavish? The Agdara of Yavish B'Yavish is that the Isser and the Heter we had here two hot dogs, one Isser, one Heter, which means one was shechted, but they both came, let's say, from a chicken. One chicken was shechted lahalacha, one chicken was a treifan. If it's a treifa, the hot dog is treif, but when the hot dog itself, you can't tell the difference. So therefore, we don't know which one's the Isser, but each one stays in and of its own. The mixture is, each one still remains together. It's not considered. It's not in a way that it's totally mixed in. The lach balach is that Isser Heter became totally mixed in, or that the one tam, or is totally mixed together, that you can't separate them, or that the tam was one another. For example, they became cooked. Now, what's the halacha l'maisa? What's the halacha l'maisa in all these categories of min b'minoi and min b'she'enoi minoi? What's the halacha l'maisa? It's as follows. Isur min b'she'enoi minoi min ha'torah. What's the din in ha'torah? So min ha'torah isur shes arav et heter min b'she'enoi minoi. They did not give a tam. Since it's min b'minoi, if it is min b'she'enei minoi, and there is no tam, it was what we call yavish b'yavish, no tam. Min ha'torah batal b'roiv, yavish b'yavish, min b'she'enei minoi, min ha'torah is batal b'roiv. What's the din if it's min b'she'enei minoi? But the miut Isser gave tam in the heter. This is what we call in halacha tam ki'ikr, which means they got mixed in, and they did give a tam. They got mixed together, and they did give a tam. They did give a taste one and another. What is the halacha in a case where they give a taste? So here we have a few mekaydes, and the Gemara brings three different psukim in the Gemara and the sugya. First of all, we have the sugya of basar v'chalab. Where do we have a makir in the Torah of tam, which we could learn from? So first of all, we have basar v'chalab. The basar Torah asks basar v'chalab. Why? Even though the basar gave only a taste in the chalab, the Torah still answers the basar in the chalab. That is case number one. But the Gemara says that you can't learn from basar v'chalab because basar v'chalab chidushu ve'in lameidim. You can't learn from basar v'chalab. Then we learn from mishras. It says in the Torah regarding to the Isurim of the Nazir called Mishras Anavim. Not only what a Nazir is not allowed to eat, not only wine or comes from the wine, also Mishras Anavim, also something which was cooked together with the wine is also awesome. What do we see? That it gives a certain time. It's cooked together with it. It was cooked together with it. It gave a time, and still it is also, we see that the tam which is given is also. That's one pasuk. Then we have another pasuk, which is the halacha of hagala of kalim. This is the fact that we're taking kalim. Now, when magil kalim, why does there need hagala? Then the clay is only the tam. What do we see? We see that the teir aser is the tam. So these are all the mekaydes which tell us that what the tam ikir is min atayra. We see that the teira regards the taste, and it's as if the isser itself, the teira answers it. So there we say that if a min b'she'eni min, two different species got mixed together and they gave a taste one another, even though it's only a little bit of a taste, still it becomes aser. Later on, we're going to see the Agdara, where the Chishim come from. But the fact that it gave a taste, that it became aser. Now, Rashi and the Rambam, they both hold that aser midirabana. Both psukim that we had there, shtei psukim abayim ke'echad ve'im melamdim. That's a klal that we have in halacha and Torah. When you have two different psukim together, they're not melamid. We don't learn one from another, and therefore we do not learn from the halachas of these two psukim. Cannot teach us regarding to other pratim, and therefore we can't learn. So therefore we don't have a raya min Torah for tam ke'ikr. Therefore Rashi and the Rambam both hold that tam ke'ikr, the Taruvos is also only midirabana. That is the first shitta. The Rosh and the Rashba hold the Taruvos is also min Torah. They do say that we learn from these two psukim. And therefore, they say that we see that tam ke'ikr is the fact that one got mixed with another and gave a taste. It's also min ha'Torah. La'alacha, we paskin that the Taruvos is aser because we hold the tam ke'ikr is aser min ha'Torah. We say that we say tam ke'ikr, and therefore the halacha is that it's aser. We have to remember that also within the shittas that hold the tam ke'ikr is min ha'Torah, we still have if in prati there are another three shittas in the Rishonim. How much do we say tam ke'ikr is min ha'Torah or min Rabbana? We have the shitta of Rabbeinu Tam, shitta of Rabbeinu Chaim, and the shitta of the Rashba. Rabbeinu Tam holds that if Isser fell into a heter, let's say we have one kazais of Isser and it fell into a heter, let's say of 20 kazaisim of heter. Rabbeinu Tam holds that each kazais that you eat, you get malchus as if it's the whole Isser, which means the Isser is totally spread out. We have this kazais got mixed into 20. Each one of these 20 kazaisim which got cooked together, it doesn't matter which kazais you eat, any kazais from these 20 or 30 or 40, whatever the case is, everything is aser and you get malchus. That's what the Rabbeinu Tam holds. Here again, remember, here we're speaking about malchus, which means we have Isser. All Rishonim hold that whenever we have a kazais that fell into a pot and there's no shishim in the pot against the kazais, the whole Isser, the whole pot is also. The question is, what's with malchus? Do we get malchus or not? So Rabbeinu Tam says it doesn't matter which one you eat, you're always going to get malchus. That's what Rabbeinu Tam holds. The middle shitta is shitta of Rabbeinu Chaim. Rabbeinu Chaim holds that you need to have a kazais b'chidei achilas pras. Pras is a half of loaf of bread. Therefore, it's 3 beitzim. So therefore, if you have 1 within 6, kazais is a half a beitzah. 1 within 6. If it's 1 out of 6, only then if you eat a kazais of one of those 6, which means that let's say a 1 kazais fell into a mixture of 3 beitzim, and therefore the ratio of the isser to the heter is 1 out of 6. Only over there it doesn't matter which kazais you're going to receive malchus. If it fell into a larger ratio, more than 1 in 6, if it fell up to 1 in 8, then you're not going to get malchus unless you eat the actual isser. But if you eat the rest of the mixture, you're not going to receive malchus. That's the second shitta. The third shitta is the shitta of the Rashba, that you have to eat that you have to eat so much, and you have to eat the actual kazais of the isser. You have to eat so much of the mixture that you're gonna actually end up eating the kazais of the isser. Is the most maker regarding to malchus. The nafkamina between this machlokes is, for example, sometime regarding to Pesach could be a nafkamina. If there's isser ichila, but there's also isser beer. Isser beer is only if it's going to be is only if it's going to be according to these shittas. Also regarding to alamichya, also comes then these shittas. What do we consider? First bracha is going to make a bracha rishena on the flour. Regarding to alamichya, if it's going to fall into a mixture, and we're going to have to make. And we need to make alamichya, therefore, and obviously in the case where the kemach is meant for tam, there's also going to be a nafkina between the three shittas, but there the Atler Paskin Sadik Bracha is lahak. Anyway, regardless, most Paskin learn halacha lamaisa. We that's only regarding to the malchus. Therefore, in most cases that machlekes doesn't matter. But and it matters is regarding to the isra, and regarding to the isra, we paskin that what tam keikar midiraisa, and therefore. Whenever we have a mixture of mimish eine and it gave a taste, which means usually in the case of lach balach, it gave a taste. We're going to say tam keikir, and the whole entire mixture became asur. Unless there was shishim, that shishim or a ta or going to taste. That we're going to see in a minute when to what extent this isser is. But the fact is that mimish eine we pass in like the shittas that tam keikir is also min ha-Torah, Rashi and Rashba, and not like Rashi and the Rambam. According to the Gemara says Amar Abba Rabbeinu calls it taimoy mamoshi also like in all of azau because I speak technical class. Taimoy veloy mamoshi also ein like in all of. That's what Rabbeinu says, that you only have the tam. We don't have the mamoshi to the isur. It's also and you don't get malchus. So Rashi holds. Why don't you get malchus? Rashi's shit is built on a Yechanan. What do we see? Why aren't you get malchus? Because Rashi and Rambam hold because tam keikir is mi derabanan, and therefore you don't get malchus. You don't get malchus because it's totally not awesome. But there is a small little difference between Rashi and the Rambam. And that is regarding if it's Rashi holds, Rashi is more machmer. Rashi holds even if it's b'chdei achilas pras, even if it's in a very if it's in a 1-to-6 ratio, even then it's also in the Rabbanan. Here the Rambam holds that here the Rambam will be made. It's going to be a 1-to-6 ratio. A kazai is b'chdei achilas pras. He's going to hold that it's also min ha-Torah. So this is the whole time kicker with the Rabbanan. Tam keikar minatay that's the shit that we bought before the Rashba, the Rabbeinu Chaim and the Rabbeinu Tam. That here is that those are the three shittas regarding the tam keikar min de yidaisa. Okay. The ikar is like Rabbeinu Chaim, but the brachas that we brought before that there with this 7 brachas lahaka, therefore we are gracious for the Rashba. Fine. That is what just now we discussed. Mim b'she'einei minei. Mim b'she'einei minei. We said if they give a taste, it is also min ha-Torah kli paskin tam keikar. What's with min b'minei? Min b'minei if it's the same type of species we saw before, a case of the 2 hot dogs. So min ha-Torah, min b'minoi, batel b'roi. Min b'minoi, min ha-Torah is batel b'roi. We have a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda wants to say that min b'minoi is eiser b'mashim. Why Rabbi Yehuda says that we learn from the dam hapar and dam ha-sa'ir. Regarding to Yom Kippur, we have the Kohen Gadol asked the chef 2 behemoths. One is a very big, large behemoth, par, an ox, and a sa'ir, which is much smaller. And he has to, after he shechs them, we have to spill both bloods into each other. And the Torah, even after they mix the 2 bloods together, the Torah still refers to it as dama par, dama sa'ir, even though it's mixed, min b'minoi, blood was mixed together, still the Torah calls each one separately. Even after the mixture, we call each one, this is a mixture of dam hapar and dam haser. It doesn't become all dam hapar, even though hapar is much bigger. So what does the Yehuda say? That min b'minoi, if here we have blood, which is the same min, here we see the Torah tells us that it's also b'mashu, and it doesn't become, there's no din of bittul by min b'minoi. The explanation is as follows. By min b'sheinei minoi, if we have two different type of species, we have two different type. If we have meat falling into a pot of soup, so one min, if you have shishim, if you're going to have 60 against the meat, so then the eine minoi, the vegetable soup is going to overpower the minoi. We had a problem with the taste, and it's two different species coming together, and one could overpower the other one, and therefore there could be shaykh bittul by min b'sheinei minoi. But min b'minoi, but if you have, we're talking about blood, and blood gets mixed together, which min b'minoi. So the more blood you put in, it's not overpowering. It's on the contrary. It's adding on. It's helping out the blood. Therefore, as much blood as you're going to pour in, it's not going to be mevatel this, or it's only going to strengthen this. Therefore, he holds that min b'minoi is also even b'mashu, and also and min atayro. That's what Rashi paskins. But Chachamim disagree. Chachamim say that min b'minoi is batal b'roiv min atayro. And also that's what all other Rishonim paskin, and therefore that's what we name on halacha l'maisa, that if we have a mixture of min b'minoi, it is batal min ha'torah. And therefore, if we have these two hot dogs, if we have two hot dogs of heter and one hot dog of isur, and Torah it's min b'minoi, it's batal miroiv, and therefore you can the hot dogs will become mutter. You'll be allowed to eat them. And Simen Koftes, we'll see if you're allowed to eat it in this case. If it's Yavish B'Yavish, if it's Min B'Minor, you're allowed to eat them all together, you're allowed to cook them all together, but the Min HaTorah, it's definitely mutter. Yeah, that's what we're passing. Allah like Chachamim, that Itr Min B'Minor is Itr is Bato B'Rei Min HaTorah. So now here we're going to go give a quick overview. We're going to go look at the halachas the way it is midiraisa, and we'll see what the gzeiros of Chazal are, where Chazal answered these minim. Min HaTorah, we have yavish b'yavish. If it's min b'minoi, it doesn't matter if it's yavish b'yavish or it's lach b'lach. Min HaTorah, we said min b'minoi, it's the same type. Even if it's lach balach, the minatero min b'minei, we don't pass on K'Rab Yehuda. Pass on Chacham that min b'minei is what is balta b'roiv. Min b'she'enei minei. If it's yavish b'yavish, two hot dogs, not two hot dogs. If you have, let's say, min b'she'enei minei yavish b'yavish, if we have a hot dog, let's say a horse hot dog and a chicken hot dog, which get mixed together, therefore you can't identify them, but it's considered two different types of species. It's considered, when it's yavish b'yavish, it'd be batal b'roiv. Lach b'lach mimsheinei minoi, here we said tam k'ikar min HaTorah. Therefore, in order to take care of it, we need shishim or timah velik. We'll soon see. In the case of where we need bittul, in the case where we say mimsheinei minoi is also, we need the tam is aser. How much is the tam aser? We generally need shishim, or if a goy tastes it, it's also going to be good in certain cases. We'll soon see exactly when is the helping of the taste of the goy, or when do we need totally to have shishim against the mimish einei mina. So that's the way it is min HaTorah. Come Chazal and say that we are worried in two different cases. What are the two cases we're worried about? We're worried about by min b'sheinei minoi. We said that if we have the two hot dogs, one was a hot dog which came from Isur, a different species, a horse hot dog. One came from a behema, and it's yavish b'yavish. It still didn't get cooked, and therefore we can't identify the Isur min HaTorah. It must be batal b'roiv. Still, Chazal tell us what's going to happen if you do cook it. I'm worried you will cook it. If you're going to, the minute you're going to cook these hot dogs together, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, it's going to give a taste with one another, and therefore it's going to be asur min ha'torah. We make a gzeira. We say that that if it's yavish biyavish min b'sheinei minei, we need shishim midrabanan. So that's one gzeira Chazal said, where by yavish biyavish min b'sheinei minoi, and the other gzeira Chazal said was in the case of lach b'lach. If we're going to say balach balach min b'minoi, we're going to say it's also. We're going to say it's balta b'roi. So you're going to also by min b'sheinei minoi. If even though it's lach balach, even though you give it a taste, you're not going to realize that the reason is because it's min b'minoi. You're also going to come to cook also min b'sheinei minoi, and therefore in these two cases, b'dirabanan it's also. Therefore halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa, 3 out of the minatayra, 3 out of the 4 cases is mutter, is bata beroiv. But midrabanan, 3 out of the 4 cases is asur, and the only case which would be mut bata beroiv, even midrabanan is only yavish by yavish min be. Now, yavish by yavish is going to be discussed in Siman Kuf Tes. We didn't learn it yet. That's going to be the discussion over there. What we're discussing now is going to be the halachas of lach belach. That's what we're going to over here, the left hand side. That's what we're going to discuss in our Siman and Siman Sadik Ches. Here we're going to go now. Now we're going to get into the Isur. We have over here. They say that the Isur. The Isur is the Gemara. The Gemara comes and says. Rava says. Three different cases. Amur Rabbanon b'Taimav, Amur Rabbanon b'Kfeilav, Amur Rabbanon b'Shishim. Sometimes Chachamim say that what the Isser is within the time of the Isser. Sometimes Rabbanon say that we need to have a Kfeilav, and we need to have a goy tasting. Sometimes Rabbanon say Shishim. So when do we say what? Hilkach mi b'Sheni mito mi Sheni minoi de'teira b'Taima. If it was min of isur, b'sheni mit of heter, there we need to go according to the taste. If it was min b'sheni min, which is a heter. For example, if it was truma, you need to know if a truma came in, you can give it according to taste. That's something of heter. You can go taste. There we say the time of taste it. See if you taste the truma, the truma and the mixture or not. If it's the surah, if it's an isur, it's not something which could be tasted. Therefore, b'kfela, you can give it a goy to taste. You can't taste. If you don't have a goy, there we say b'shishim. So this is where the shishim came from. That we say that here Rava puts it and explains that what it depends if it's an isur. If it's an isur. You generally need to have a goy tasting it. What happens if there's no goy? There we say it's batal shishim. We need to give it for shishim. Now regarding to the goy, we're gonna have a few. We have 2 main machlekes regarding to the goy, regarding to the kfela. Machlekes number 1 is, what type of goy are we talking about? When we say that a goy is, we have to give it a goy to taste. Do we rely on any type of goy? You just pull a goy off the street and ask him, "Listen, I have over here a mixture. Give a taste. Tell me if there is, if I can eat the mixture or not." Do we rely on any goy? So here we have in the Rishonim we have various different shittas. We have one shitta is the Rashba, that what we need to have. Saya uman and saya misich l'kvituman, which means saya the guy has to be an uman. If the guy is an uman means if he's a professional cook. So we give it to the cook to taste it. So we have a cloud that tells us ein uman ma'arabum nasi. He won't want to lose his job, or his reputation might be hurt. So in that case, if he's a uman, only then he's believed, and he has to be separate pitumen, which means you can't. Here we don't need. You're allowed to ask him, but you can't tell him. I need to know if I could eat this mixture. Or you can tell we're having over here a machlokes, me and my friend. We want to know if this taste, something fell in over here. We want to know if this taste is felt or not. What do you say? So once you told, we need to have Saya Uman and the Rishonim we're talking first. We need to have Saya Uman and Saya Mesechla Pitumay. The Teisus Nanan say that we need to have an Uman, but Uman is enough. You need to have a Mesechla Pitumay. Rashba itself says that it depends. If it's an Uman, you don't need to have a Mesechla Pitumay. If it's Mesechla Pitumay, you don't need to have an Uman. And from the Rambam, it looks like you need any guy, even if not Mesechla Pitumay, not Uman, any case will work. That's what the Mechaber Paskins Allah Chalamayzek the Rashba. The Rashba says that you have to have one of the two, or Mesech Lefitumay. What's mean Mesech Lefitumay? You, like we said, you go and you ask, listen, we have over here a machlekes between us. We want to know if what do you think? So if he doesn't know that there's if the guy doesn't understand that there is any ramifications of his psak, so he's telling you what he thinks is a taste or not. He doesn't think that there's any ramifications. For example, and today nowadays we have different type of doctors. Doctors come along, but let's say it's pikuach nefesh on Shabbos. So if the doctor knows that what he says is has nafkamina, so especially the nafkamina doctors, they're very much mizalzel. They understand that if they say pikuach nefesh, everything's going to be mutter. They don't care about the halacha, so they say, yeah, it's pikuach nefesh. And you need to have a proof doctor to determine different things. What you're allowed to do in Shabbos, what you're not allowed to do, because you understand that there's ramifications that it's mizalzel. Same thing with the goy. The minute you think that there's ramifications, you're a little bit more mizalzel. You don't tell the truth. Therefore, we need to make sure that he can tell the truth. He doesn't have any agendas. So therefore, Allah Lamaisa, we need to have or Mesech Lefitumay or a Ummah. Now, so that is number one. Which type of goy do we rely on? And that's machlekes number one. Then we have another machlekes. When what happens if there is shishin? What happens if there is shishin? If there is shishin, do I give it to the goy or not? Which means the Gemara is giving us an option, or shishim or a goy. I already have shishim. I have a piece. We have over here a mixture. We have over here a pot of vegetables. This fell into the pot. Now I need to know if what? I need to know if this pot, if the Isser got bottled into the pot or not. But I have shishim already. Do I still need to give it to a goy or not? So here we have three shittas in the Rishonim. We have Rashi holds that he's the most machmer, that you only could rely on the goy if you do have shishim. Which means when the Gemara said give it to the goy, we didn't do it instead of shishim. We did it only if you do have shishim. That's what Rashi holds. The Rambam holds, he's more makel. He holds that he holds two pratim in the Rambam. You can give it to the goy even if there isn't shishim. Which means, let's say there's only 30. You come to a goy, you say, listen over here. I have a pot of vegetables. I was cooking a pot of vegetables and a piece of meat fell in, and I need you to tell me if you could taste the meat. If he says he tasted the goy tastes the mixture, and there is no tam of basar, even if there's no shishim, it's fine. That's what according to the Rambam. That's on one hand. On the other hand, if there is shishim, and you do have a goy, you still have to ask him, which means that the Rambam puts a lot of emphasis on the goy. So on the one hand, if the goy tells you it's fine, if the goy tastes it and tells you it's fine, you don't need to have shishim. Even without shishim, it's good. On the other hand, even if there is shishim, you need to give it to the goy to taste. That's what the Rambam holds. The Rashba holds. He holds the first prop. If it's less than shishim, a goy tastes it, it's still fine. But even after shishim, if you do have shishim, you don't need a goy. Cholev, it looks like the Shulchan Aruch passing like the Rambam. That what? If you do not have shishim, and the guy tastes it, it's still fine. But even if you do have shishim, it's still better to give it to a guy. So the Mechaber holds, like the Rambam, that you give it to a guy, you have a mixture, you don't have to break your head. How to be Mashire. How do I know if there's shishim or not? Okay, I remember the one as a baruch learned Hilchos Taruvos, and all of a sudden it came one Yom Tif night. All of a sudden, there was a question. They took there was a big somebody put together for the main course. They put together a whole piece, a whole gishmak, a piece of meat, but they forgot to. It was a liver, and they forgot to salt part of it. Go middle Yom Tov, go be Meshire. If there's 60 in the pot or not, fine. You learn halach, you learn Taruvos, fine. There's 60, but how do you Meshire it? It's not so simple. You go so Pistol here Taka brings that we go according to the nefach. We go measure it. We don't go according to the weight. We go according to the nefach. Nefach is how big it is. Sometimes it's very hard to mishayir. So according to Shulchan Aruch, you're very simple. You take this pot. You go look for a goy or Masechet or umam. You give it the taste. And if he says there's no taste of the isur, then the mixture will be fine. And that's the Mechaber says that we rely on tasting the goy. The Ramah says we don't rely on goy to determine if there's an isur or heter. Today Allah Lamaisa, we don't even though we didn't the Gemara, we could give it a goy. Today we don't rely on the town of the goy. And we do not, and since we don't rely on the goy, there is no such thing as giving to taste the goy. And we pass the halacha lines like the Ramah. Therefore, lepoil, we don't give to a goy, and also for the Sardish at Paskin today. Now they say we don't give it to a goy. The famous story where Salant that there was a once a mixture they got mixed in, and first it was. And first they gave it to Svardi to check, and after the Svardi checked it and it was fine, he said now it's already, you can give it to Ashkenazi. I got the Redel. But I think it's right, we don't give it to a goy at all, and therefore we need the pearl today. We need shishim. Whenever we have an issue falls into heter, we have a piece of meat which fell into a pot of vegetables. We need to see if we have to learn how to measure to make sure. Is there shishim in the pot against the isur or not? That's how we're going to imatir the isur. So let's just recap the halacha of the goy. We said there's two pratim in the machlekes over here in the Rishonim. Prat number one was when do I give to a goy to be mat? When do I give to a goy to taste? So some say you need to have saya, some say you need to have Masechet Vitumah and omans, or only either or, both. None. The placha we say we need either or. Either we give it to the oman, either we give it, or we have Masechet Vitumah. That's machlekes number one. Machlekes number two is when there is shishim. Do we still need to give it to a goy or not? We put three shittas. One shitta held. Rashi held that even if that a goy could only help you taste it only after shishim, give it to a goy. That one says that shishim help the goy taste it even less than shishim. But if there is shishim, you still have to give it to the goy. The goy is around. The Rashi holds that if there is no shishim, the goy is fine if you taste it, and if you have shishim, you don't need to have a goy. So those are the two machlekes regarding to that. Let's go see the Mechaber inside. Then we'll see a few more discussions regarding to the Masechet Vitumah. Let's see the Mechaber inside. Isur shenis arav mimishein eminoi beheter. Mimishein eminoi gedoin chalav shenis arav bebasar yitamen v'yichavim imei mershem betam chalav mershem mershes betam hashu pagum mutar. The guy is believed to tell us whether it's a taste. Number one, and like we learned in Kuf Gimel, also if this taste is pogum, if it gives a foul taste or not. Who should I say for that? Like I said there, to make sure that he doesn't know. If there is no goy, then we give it, we reshire shishim. Like here we see the Mechaber clearly says that you give it to goy, you don't need to have shishim. If there is no goy, then we have shishim. It's fine. Also, another case where we need shishim is minay, and it gave a taste. Is lach balach gave a taste, it was cooked, therefore we can't tell. Therefore, Chacham said we need to have shishim. The Ramah says, today we don't really rely on the goy, and we're mashar everything be shishim. We need to make sure there's always shishim. The Shach points out more than Amam, the Master of the Shulchan Aruch, if there is a goy, even if there is shishim, you have to give it to the goy to make sure there is no Tama Isser, because the Mechar passing like the Nama. Now the person come along and ask a question: how do we rely on a goy? A goy is not believed even if you see Mitume. Besides for Eidos Isha, or he's not believed. So all of a sudden, here a goy is believed. How do you rely on a goy? So here, in order to answer this question, we had here 3 answers. The Trumas Hadeshin said, regarding to this halacha, we say we could rely on the shittas that all the tam k'ikr is the rabbanon. Since there is a shitta, halacha l'maisa we pass that what tam k'ikr is also mina Torah. But since there is a shitta that holds that tam k'ikr is the rabbanon, therefore we could rely on this shitta regarding to the seichel fitum. It's going to help us to rely on this shitta. That's one explanation. The second explanation is the Taz. The Taz says by Irsa Verta we don't need to have mamish edus. It's enough to have only a raya, only a chaf. You don't need to. If you need to have halacha, if the halacha tells you need to have mamish din edus, you need to have, in order for it to work, you need to mamish have edus that people come testify. So to testify, I get one help. But here we don't need to have edus by edus isha that she died, or by davar sheba we need edus. Therefore, we need to have isha. You need to have somebody who's telling edus without and seichel fitume it won't help. But here we won't need to know the fact. We don't need the gala das what's going on over here. It's we need a chacham for that. Just tell us no fact. We say right there, a guy is believed. But the Taz is deichit because the Taz brings regarding to Bukhir, which is also a there. The guy is not believed to say this is a Bukhir. Therefore, it says the Taz himself is deichit. This answer. The third answer is the Shach tries to bring answer of cheskas isur, whether this isur was established or not. That by us, since we don't know if it's usur yet, because we're trying to establish if it's batal or not, so therefore there's no cheskas isur. But the Shach is deichit that. Why? Because by the Shibuya, there's also no cheskas isur. In the Gemara, when we're coming to compare the halacha of the halacha of Isha Shemei's Baila. We're comparing it to Shibuya. By Shibuya also still wasn't established this. We're now coming to see if this is or not. Therefore, Shach is deichit that. And the Shach Maskana is the Isha fell into the head the guy has an emanus because he could be mevar later on. Even if the goy, what happened? To ask the goy, listen, I want to know if there's a mixture over here. I want to know if you think there's a mixture. Even if it's something that you could be mevader, you could give it to a professional to taste eventually. It's something we don't need to have the goy. There are other ways for you to work out if there's isser or not. In that case, the goy is believed. In the case where the husband, the goy says Isha makes by law, we don't have any. We need to rely only on his testimony. In that case, only based on Eilus Isha is believed. But in our case, we don't need him. Even with Adam, we have an option to work out to understand what's going on over here. Therefore, in that case, it's believed, and therefore, by us, the Goy B'Seichel Fitumai is believed. Now we have a discussion. What happens? What happens if a yid wants to? What is considered tasting? Is tasting mean only to put it into your mouth and to have to totally chew on it? What's if you want to taste it only with your tongue? Well, is that mutter or usher? So here we have shittas ataz. The Taz holds that if you want to taste something with your tongue, it's mutter. It's not usher. It's only usher if you to this that we said by us. That we need to give it to a goy to taste. Why can't he taste it? Because we need to have a real taste. In order to differentiate isser from heter, if a piece of meat fell into a vegetable, and you need to figure out if the vegetables have 60 against this piece of meat, you have to have a real tasting, and therefore you can't really taste it. Therefore, you have to give it to a goy. But there are other cases where you don't need to have such a strong differentiation between isser and heter. For example, let's say you bought a piece of meat, and you don't know if the meat was salted or not, if there is blood there or not. So if you taste it with your tongue, you could taste if there's missing salt in the mixture or not. So is that permissible to lick it and to see if there's salt missing or not? So the Taz comes along and says, yeah. We have halacha. The halacha says that if here we see the animal, there's a part of the animal which is called the mara. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's called the mara. Over here we see it, and if it's it's something very very bitter. And if it's missing, then the animal's treif, because I'm missing piece of the animal. If it's missing a part of the limbs, then the animal is treif. So in the case over here, you check the animal and you can't find the mara. So it's right next to the liver. So if you taste the liver, and you taste a very and you taste it and you have this taste and it's very very bitter, it's kosher. Let's say mechaber. This is the mechaber in regarding to treifis. If im chaser amara kerea kovach tiv eida v'teim b'lshene imitim tamar ksheda v'imloy tam tamar yitzlenu b'gecholim v'yitem ish b'tamar ksheda v'imlav treifa. So here we see, says the Taz, why are you allowed to go taste it? If looking an isser through your tongue is also, so how are you allowed to taste it? So the Rama says the Taz wants to say that from here, this that it says you're allowed to taste it, you mean with your tongue, because you don't mean it's something to figure out something is salty or not. It's enough to taste with your tongue. So that's mutter. That's what we say here. It's mutter. So therefore, also in a case where you bought flesh, if you want meat, you don't know if it's salted or not. You take lick it with your tongue, and it's going to be enough. That's what the Taz holds. The Shach disagrees. The Shach says that also licking with your tongue is asur. Over here, we have a reason why we hear it's mutter, because a lot of us can say you don't need to taste, because we have a cloud. Most animals have all limbs, so therefore here the isur, the chashash isur is not so strong. Most people don't have to. You can always rely on the chazaka that has it. Therefore, we hear a lot of taste, but there's no such thing to differentiate between tasting with your tongue or not. So the Allah lamaisa, are you allowed to lick a piece of meat that you bought? You're not sure if there was salted or not. The Taz holds that it's mutter, Shach holds that it's asur. The Allah lamaisa only by Allah lamaisa. So the Pesach Shor brings from the Tzemach Tzedek Akadma, not our Tzemach Tzedek, the previous Tzemach Tzedek. But only if it was trade the Rabbanon, Saif was issued the Rabbanon, and it was pogum. Only there you're allowed to lick to figure out if it's us or not. But generally we don't. So that's when you have the paskins. And only if it's Saif pogum and Saif the Rabbanon, only then you're allowed to lick. But generally speaking, if you have it in Isser, you're not allowed to lick it to see it if it's also if it's the mixture of Isser or not. That's the end of Sif Aleph. Now we're going to Sif Beis. In Sif Beis, we're going now to the din of suffix. What's the din regarding to a suffix, if there's a suffix Isser or not? What's the din if it's suffix Isser or not? So we have over here as follows. First of all, min v'minoi, if there is we have anacha. We said at the beginning, we'll go over it really quickly. The difference if we have an isser which is min b'minoi, or if it's min b'sheini minoi. What's the difference? The difference is if it's min b'minoi, what did we say? Min atayram, min b'minoi. We have a one black piece of meat of isser, which and there's very bad there. We say min atayram, min b'minoi, even though it's balach, even though it's cooked, is mutbata b'roi. Chacham said that you're not allowed to have. It's also the Chacham came and asked min b'minoi, and they said that also b'minoi we need to have shishim against it. So this is only the Rabbanan. If it's Isser the Rabbanan, what's the side? Safek the Rabbanan the Kula. If it's Mimisheni Minoi, if a piece of meat fell into the milk and it's Mimisheni Minoi, or a piece of meat fell into not the milk, if a piece of meat fell into the mixture, if it's Mimisheni Minoi, there it's also we need tan keker, we need to have shishim and atayra. So here we have what? Safek the Raisa the Chumrah. Regarding to what happens if not meat, but chicken fell in? So here we have Taz holds that we should be machmer for suffix. Like, is it was this a Torah? Why? Because we see that even regarding to harchakas, Chachamim say we should market from chicken. Chachamim will say that chicken, even though it's Rabbanan, a lot of halachas we are machmer like it's meat. Therefore, also in our case, we have a suffix by chicken. We should be machmer. The Shach says that the makam suffix you could be mako like shar. You could be mako like shari sodim because the pearl chicken is also by the Rabbanan. So what happens if we have chicken that got mixed into a chicken which got mixed into chicken which is Isser got mixed into the meat? What's halacha l'maisa? Halacha l'maisa we go according to halacha l'maisa. We say that that also by chicken we should be machmer. We're not going to be makel by chicken. We're machmer. We're machmer by chicken. Now, just one second, referring to the chicken. What's the halacha l'maisa? The Pischei Shua brings Pischei Shua brings the Pichodesh to makel by chicken. That what we don't have to be machmer, but chicken it's only issue the Rabbanan. If we need to, it could be makel. Pischei Shua the shach. Halacha l'maisa like the shach that we can be makel by chicken. We don't have to be machmer by chicken. Fine. That is regard. So that's the say that we need to know. If the suffix, what is the din? What's the din? It depends. If it's min b'minay, it's a suffix that Rabbanan the full. If it's min b'sheni minay, we need to have shishim min ha Torah. In Sivbeis, we're going to go see that if it's suffix, if it's a mitzvah, you can have the suffix. It's a din. We're going to see if it's a suffix of chesed b'kiyas. Now, here we're going to go and explain the case of the case over here, and then we're going to go. And afterwards, we're going to take a break. So here, what happened? The first case, the Isser. The first case is the Isser fell into the Taruvos. First, we have here pieces of meat. The Isser comes and falls in, and we were not sure if there was shishim against the Isser. Second shlav, what happened? The Isser came out. Now it's only a tam. Now what happens? A part of the tafshil got spilled out, and now we for sure don't know if there was shishim against the Isser. It got spilled. We for sure don't know if there's shishim against the Isser. So this was a case of min b'minoi. This was a case of min b'she'ein minoi. So bin b'she'ein minoi sveika de l'banon l'kula. Therefore, the tafshil is going to be mutter. Because why? Because we have a piece of meat, and this piece of meat is min the same meat. Even though our cook gave a time, still could be we need shishim in the rabbanon. That's min. And now it got spilled that I don't know if there was shishim. We say something about nakula and the tafshil is mutter. But if it was min b'she'ein minoi, then we say steak the rice of the chumrah, and therefore the tafshil is going to be osur. That's the din in. If base weird inside. In this out of min v'nishpach v'ini chayil na'adal b'shayrei im noida shayru b'yater mutter v'im noida shayru b'yater also. So first of all, we need to have a roiv because going back to the case, we have to make sure that the roiv was there. Because even if we're going to go on the din Torah, we want to say it's only also the levanim. We need to have roivs. We knew for sure there's roiv. Now, but the only question is after it's spilled if there's shishim or not. In that case, we say it's it is also. Here we have the Ramal we brought it earlier on, and we discussed it earlier on. Now, what happens if the Isser fell into the tafshil and it got dissolved within the tafshil? We don't know how much Isser fell. That's considered a suffix which you can't be in the environment. And therefore, you could make a Isser derabana, which means sai spilled or sai if it got mixed in a way that now I can't find it anymore. I don't know how much it fell. For example, if you actually had a pot of meat and you had a cabinet on top of the pit of meat, up top of the cabinet, a cabinet on top of the stove, and you left a bag of milk, left over there a bowl of milk. You have no idea how much milk was inside, and it spilled into the pot. You have no idea how much milk was originally, how much milk there is now, how much spilled in. You don't know, and dissolved. You don't know. So if it's Oisher Dirabon, if it would be mean, if it would be mean Biminoi, then it would be considered, it's a something you can't be out of Mitzvahs. If it's only Oisher Dirabon, it'll be Mutter. Which means you have two options, or if it's spilled and you can't tell. The idea, the fact is that here we're talking about that it's something b'mitzias. Later on, we're going to see what happens if it's something that you can't, if it's a something which is not b'mitzias. If it's something, it's a different type of something. But here we're talking about a something mitzias you can't find out the way it turned out, or it got spilled, or it got dissolved. But might say you can't figure out what happened over here, what the situation over here really was. Now, the last half of the sif is a little bit more confusing, but since you already learned it once, we're only going to chazer it now. It's only chazar, so we're going to go over a little bit quickly. What happens if there is sai minoi and sai she'enim minoi, which means we have a piece of meat. The meat fell in. We have, first of all, a mixture of potatoes and meat, which potatoes and meat is min min. Now, what happened? If a few of them fell out, so then it's spilled. We don't know what's going on. So what's the law over here? It will be regarding the pieces of meat, for sure mutter. Why? Because we have here the isser. We have here the isser, this black piece of meat, which is the isser, which fell into the meat and the potatoes. So the meat itself is min b'minoi. Therefore, the taste that came over here in aser, these pieces of meat, is the same type of meat as meat. So I could mimater the pieces of meat. But what's with the potatoes? The potatoes received the tam isser from a piece of meat. So the potatoes will be considered min b'she'enim minoi, b'isser in that potato. If it gets spilled later on, the potato should be usher. But here we have a special halacha. The halacha is as follows. Let's read it in the Mechaber. The Mechaber says as follows: the imnis out of the minoi, if it got mixed into a pot, if there was potatoes and meat, sai minoi and sai any minoi, you can't tell. We need to make sure that the heter was noiv. It's both of a potato. So here, we see the potatoes as if they're non-existent. The other piece of meat of heter or there's noiv regarding to the piece of meat that is and therefore it's mevata. So therefore, these pieces of meat are for sure mutter. Because we look as if the it's if it's non-existent. That's shlav number one. Question is, what's with the potatoes? The chorah that if you disregard the potatoes, you could say that we're only looking at the piece of meat as if it's min minoi and it's isser d'rabanan. Therefore, why? Because min minoi it's d'rabanan and balto b'roi. Therefore, we're going to amnimata the pieces of meat. What's with the potatoes? Could the potatoes themselves even be mutter or not? So here we had a machlokes. The Taz says the Eine Minoi is mutter, because the Meiser is no Tam Isser in the Eine Min. Because we say the Tam Isser was in the Heter, and the Eine Minoi is mutter. The Shach says no, the Meiser is a taste over here of the potatoes. And to say that the Chomer for Shach Aser is the potatoes. I'm not going to have time to explain everything. Just the we'll go over it really quickly. We have the they say that the law over here is really in the Gemara in a precarious case. They say it over here is that the Gemara is speaking on a case of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, we said min b'minoi is also b'mashu. So the Gemara says what happens according to Rabbi Yehuda if we had a mixture of min b'minoi, which would let's say the piece of meat and piece of meat together, and eine minoi. So Rabbi Yehuda, so there we say, even though usually min b'minoi is also, but since over here there's a mixture of min b'minoi and eine minoi, so we say salik es minoi, take away the isser of, take away the piece of meat, and eine minoi is mutter. That's what the Gemara says according to the Yehuda. So for the Rashba in our case comes along and says the same thing, just punkt verkehrt. That what? That was according to the Yehuda. So but now let's go according to us. We do pass them is mutter b'mashu. So it will say that eine mina is if the eine mina is not around. Salik she'ene mina, and the mina will be mutter, and therefore it's fine. But the Marshal disagreed with the whole comparison. Why? He says in Rabbi Yehuda, this that was min b'minayin was this is what I'm saying now is only a segraim. So therefore, if you're not with me, don't fall away from us the rest of the share. This that there was the min b'minayin is a gzeres akaso, according to Rabbi Yehuda. That I feel about a flay bottle. So the second is eine minoi, so it's already not the gzeres akaso. Therefore, I could be matir. But it says the shach, it says the Rashab, but by us, the reason why the eine minoi, the reason why the potatoes are also is not because of gzeres akaso. It's because of the fact. The fact is that this piece of meat gave taste in the potatoes. If the piece of meat gave taste in the potatoes, so therefore the taste is there. You can't take it away. So therefore, there's no way to say that the potatoes will be mutter in our case. So therefore, the Maaseh the Taz says the eine minoi is mutter, the potatoes are mutter. And why is eine minoi mutter? Because the piece of meat, the taste got dissolved within the minoi. It's bottle, and therefore the Maaseh they received they don't receive tam isur, and the Shach says no, the pearl is a piece of meat and the eine minoi, and they receive the tam. So therefore, it's sveka. If we consider it mimish eine minoi and sveka the rice and the chumrah, therefore even if it's spilled out, it's still awesome. Okay, we're taking now a break, and we're going to come back and continue on the next 10-minute break. It's now 3:19, 8:19, 8:20, so 8:30 come back. Okay. We're going to continue now. What's the din if you don't know how if you don't know how to if the shishim gets the issur?
We see, but it has also we can see with the whole with the also the other ones on the side.
Okay. What's the din if we don't know how to be meshayir if there's shishim connected to issur or not? 1 second. So if we don't know how to be meshayir if there's 60 against the issur or not, says the Mechaber as follows: the medvarim burim k'shenishpach, aval issur shenis arim v'heter bula fanenu v'ef shelamid hashiroi af b'shu b'shtum shlevem also. If now here we're talking about what if the suffix that you probably don't know how to be mitzachas to the suffix. You don't know at the shishim. You don't know how to be meshayir. We said the different ways of being meshayir. What happens if you don't know how to be meshayir, and therefore it's also, and therefore you can't determine how much isur there is. And here we don't say that it's mutter. It's not considered a suffix because it's considered. The Shainim explained because the suffix chesed yediyah. Das shaiti meina klum. You don't know that, then go work it out. Just that you can't figure it out how to be mevatel it doesn't make it mutter, and therefore if you don't know, somebody else will know. So that's not considered a suffix. It was spilled, and therefore it's a real suffix. You don't know. You have no way to determine if there was 60 or not. So there, that's fine. But if a suffix shechesin in there, you have no idea. You don't know. There, it's not going to be considered mutter.
I don't think we're seeing your screen. I think something else.
Again,
I don't think we're seeing your screen.
you don't think we're seeing my screen? Design. Now,
Yeah. No,
okay. So here's what we have, that if you have the Isser and you don't know how to, you can't tell if it's Batul Shishim or not, that can't be mutter. That's not considered a suffix. It's called suffix michesin yediyah. We don't know, you don't know, that's not, we can't be matter. Because da shaitim, somebody else could figure it out. You don't know, we're not going to let you be matter. Now, here, Taz asks a question. The Taz as a question, what's if there's something which, not that you don't know, you can't figure it out, but it's a real problem. For example, a question of bein hashmashis. A question of bein hashmashis, if you're not sure if it's day or night, it's not an issue that you don't know. The whole world doesn't know. So the Taz says such a case is considered chesim yediyah kol ha'olam. That is a suffix. What's the right from the Taz? The right from the Taz is from in the case of suffix treifa. We know there's a treifa which is something which is called sircha. Sircha is that whenever there's a hole, sometimes when there's a hole, if the lung is punctured, if there's a hole in the lung, then it's treif. Sometimes instead of the hole, on top of the hole, there's like this fatty piece of meat which grow on it. That's what's called a sircha. When you say glat, the Chaber Beis Yosef says that you're not allowed to have any sirchas. There was more mikul by sirchas. So what happens if we have a treifa through a sircha, which is a suffix? So what happens if there's a spec sveka, which means if let's say I have cheese, the cheese which came from a behema, and now I found the behema is treif. But could be the cheese came from the behema before it became treif. That's suffix number one. Suffix number two, it's only a sircha. Sircha is not for sure treifa because it could be that it's mutter. I asked the behema because of the sircha. So the Chaber says the sveka and it's mutter. Says the Taz, the second. Why is it a spek sveka? Because we don't know how to be mishar sirchis today. We're not bucky, therefore we're not sure. We're going to say it's mutter. Says the Taz. Wait a second. This that you can't check a sircha, and nobody knows how to check. Today we're not bucky to check a sircha. Nevertheless, the Mechaber uses it as a suffix. So what do we see? That if it's suffix, chesin idea for the whole world. Not only do you have over here a pot, and you don't know how to figure out if it's shishim or not. There we're talking machmer. But if the whole world doesn't know, nobody knows how to be beidik sirchas. There, it is considered a suffix. The Shachas agrees. The Shach says this over here where makel is because by sirchas we have a specific din because most behemoths are kosher. But in generally speaking, any chesed idea from the whole world is not considered a suffix. There's a lot of enough commitments for this. For example, let's say bris. When we make a bris, if by mistake you made a bris too late, the meal came after shkia, and that's bein hashmashis. Is it a suffix which is mutter or not? Because it's something called the kolaylam. So the taz will be makel, but the shach answers. That also passes with the shach l'isur. Also, chesed idea from the whole world is not considered a suffix. So that takes care of these seifim. Now, go to the next din. You see this? Do you see the PowerPoint?
yeah.
Okay.
No, we only see the introduction page. Unless that's what you want to show us.
No. I can't figure out how to do it. Now, you see the PowerPoint now? I'm moving the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You see it now?
No, we don't see anything moving.
I don't choose a book or nothing.
Now it's good.
Now,
Yeah, now it's good.
okay. Fine. Now we have halacha regarding to a chal. The chal is a part of the meat, is part of the behemoth where there is the milk. So Chazal say the chal is b'shishim, the chal min a minyan, which means we have milk. This is it's over here. We see it in front of us. Here we have the milk. So the chal, the piece of the limb itself, the chal itself, since we have to be involved with the milk, so the chal itself could be started. Now the chal itself is also v'nafal gdeira acheres, oiser it asher the other gdeira as well. Amar Ravashi ki avina beit of Kana ibailon ki misharina v'didei misharina v'vayafik midei misharina. Shita the bidei misharina the v'vayafik midei minayadina. Here we have a very say this is the question. Whenever I have Isser falls into a heter, I have a piece of meat that fell into a pot of that fell into a meat which is straight, which fell into a pot of vegetables. How much of the meat went into the vegetables? I have no way of knowing how much Isser came out of the meat and answer the whole Taruvos. If I don't have a way of knowing, I have to be machmer to answer everything. So I don't know how much came out. What came out of the chal, you don't know. You have no way of knowing what came out of the chal. So since you have no way of knowing what came out of the chal, Chachamim say we have to answer everything. So from here, from this Gemara from Chal, we learned they say that whenever we have an Isser falls into Heter and we don't know how much came out, we have to say as if all the time of the Isser came out. The Chal fell in, we have to say that the whole entire Isser came out. But we don't know how much milk came out. So therefore, what happens if a piece of meat came out of one pot? And now it goes even though it came out, still we need shishim against the entire piece of meat, because we take the hanacha is that everything, the whole entire taste, as if the whole piece, so if the whole piece of meat, as if all the taste came in, if we even know there's the only taste left and the piece of meat left, we consider it, we need to have shishim against the whole entire piece, as if all of the tam came out. Even if it's still the same weight and it's still the same size, because the timing could switch. It means it could be pilot, it could take out all its time into the Taruvos, and it could take in other time. So therefore, we don't know, and since we don't know, we have to consider it as if all the time came out. What happens if the piece of meat falls into a second pot? Again, I don't know where all the taste came out. It's also the second pot. I need to have shishim against the entire piece of meat, even if it's 10 pots. We have one piece of meat going from one pot to another. It still answers all 10 pots, or we can't be matir this piece of meat. Now, what happens if the piece of meat was in one pot, it came out, and it came back into the same pot of meat? What's the din in such a situation? So here we say we don't need to have twice shishim, it's enough to have one time shishim. Yeah, what happened? Again, you have a piece of meat. The piece of meat was in the pot, fell out, fell back in. For sure, we only need to have one type. We only need to have one shishim against the piece of meat. Why would I need to have twice? Still, I have a question. You still have a svara to say that I need to have a second piece of meat. Why? The Rama holds that there's Hanan b'shari surim. If there's Hanan, so what happens? If there's Hanan b'shari surim, so the meat fell into the pot, but the meat also absorbed from the pot. So the meat absorbed the tam from the pot. So the tam which came into the meat from the rest of the pot became usher. So that's a new taste that came into the meat. So we say chanan mechura, and so it should be. If it came out and it comes back in, you need to have shishim against both of them. Twice shishim against the new isser of chanan that came to it. So the answer is the poil is still going to be min b'minay, because even if it's going to be chanan, but which tam was it? It's a tam from the act. It's its own tam. It's always going to be min b'minay, because who gave the original tam? The original tam came from a piece of meat. So generally, such tam will be mutter. So this is chazal aser min b'sheini mini. It's only because I'm worried that I'm gonna I'll do any minute. But in our case, even the second and third time, it's always going to be the tam. It's always going to be minute. Therefore, according to the Rama, if it falls in and it comes out and falls back in a second time, it's always going to be enough 60 against the first that was the first time. You don't need to have twice 60. That's according to the Rama. Now we're going to discuss what happens with Kalim. We're going to discuss what happens with Kalim. Do I say Hanan by Kalim or not? Do I say Hanan by Kalim or not? Here, we're going to have to a little bit of help, but we'll try to explain in a way that it should be understandable. We have here two pots. We have here two pots. This pot is Isser, this pot is Heter. What happened? So first of all, how much of the spoon which fell into the kli, how much does it becomes also? So we have as follows. A spoon which fell into a pot, right? We have here a pot of a trefa pot. I have a spoon which came in. Now I don't know how much tam came into the spoon, right? Because could be a little bit, could be a lot. So what do we say? In any case where I'm not sure, I have to consider it as if all this tam, whichever part, as much as the spoon was put into the pot, that's how much the spoon received tam. So if the head of the spoon fell into the pot, and now the spoon falls into another pot, I need to have shishim against the entire spoon, because I don't know. I say the spoon was beleya, everything. The whole spoon now is full of isur. I need to have in the heter as much as the entire spoon which was put in. It's as if in the heter all of the isur, all the isur which was in the spoon came into this pot, and I need shishim against the entire head of the spoon. Now there is a machlekes in the Rishonim. Which part of the spoon do I need shishim against? Most Rishonim hold, like you see here in the picture, only against the part of the spoon which actually fell into the isur. This part of the spoon which didn't fall into the isur, you don't need to have shishim against that part. Only the part which fell in, only that part I need to have shishim against it. But Rabbeinu Peretz holds that cham mitzasei cham kuloi, and therefore he learns from Hilchos Karan Pesach, and therefore he holds that you need to have, if cham mitzasei, if part of the spoon became hot, as if everything became hot, and therefore you need to have shishim against the entire spoon. It's not enough to have shishim against the part of the spoon which fell into the isur. Now, what happens if I'm not sure how much? I know a spoon came to the isur. The spoon a spoon of Isser fell into the heter, but I don't know how much of the spoon. So the Rashal says it's as if you go according to what the data. What usually happens when you put the Isser into the heter, according to that, that's how much we're mashar. So if we usually only the head of the spoon falls into the Isser, therefore we're only mashar as if the head of the spoon fell in. Or if it's a little smaller spoon, which usually more than the head goes in, so where you put it, you're mashar as if what's usually falls in from part of this small spoon which comes in. Let's go see now the Mechaber. The Mechaber says as follows. Isur is battling heter. Isur which got cooked together with heter. Afilu makire ushalim uzrake. Even if he identifies it, and the Isur is shalim, and he takes it and he throws it out. Still, tzarich shishim connected kol Isur. We need shishim against the entire Isur. We don't know how much of the Isur came out. Therefore, we need shishim against the whole entire Isur. If you're cooking a gdedas Isur which is bas yeima, you need to have samach against the entire gdera, or anything which you put in from the spoon. We're not sure how much it was beleya. It doesn't matter whether it was if it was made out of cheres, earthenware, eights, if it was wood or mateches or metal. You always need to have shishim against it. Skip that I'm honest for a second. Yes, mishamach for kapshal mateches. The hatzich samach connected kule. Some hold that in a kaf of mateches need to have samach against all of it. I feel like even if you didn't put only a little bit, you now have to have samach against the entire kaf. Why? Because this is the Rabbeinu Peretz chamik tzas lecham kula. You hold that you have to be machmer. If part of it became hot, the whole entire thing came out. Therefore, you have to be machmer for their whole thing. And the Allah Lamaitis will make for Svara Rishayim. Now, in this Sagraim here, the Ramah discusses Melicha. So this is speaking about Shabbat the Tichas Eish, other the Elechas Bekolot, but the Tichas Melicha and the Betira Kadei Klipa and Sarah Kadei Klipa. We learned in Masar Bekolot, we'll see later on in Melicha, but really quick. If I take a piece of meat that was not salted and I salted it in a kli, so the salt, the salt and the rative of the melach is very sharp. It's mevashel. So if I salt a piece of meat and takes out inside the blood inside everything and I put it into a kli, that sharpness of the salt is going to aser the kli k'dei klipa. Means it's enough to peel it off. It doesn't aser the entire kli, but asers it only k'dei klipa. If it was cooked, so the cooking makes the entire kli aser. It's much stronger. It comes in through fire. It goes through the entire kli. But if it's only salted, so therefore it asers the kli k'dei klipa only for k'dei klipa. The mile of k'dei klipa is that usually there is shishim against it. A regular pot, that entire pot was cooked with isur, and we say the whole entire pot became asur, and I later on cook something else. Usually I say there isn't shishim in that, and what I cooked against the pot usually. But if it's only k'dei klipa, and I cook and this pot became asur because of salt, and I cook something else, usually there will be shishim against it in order to be matter. Now the Ramah says another thing. What happens? Second, first of all, isur shilizbat b'ktera v'siru misham v'nach b'ktera cheretz v'chazar shishim connected kula. We said if it falls into one pot, another pot, even 10 pots, you have to still have shishim in each pot against it. If it falls into the first pot twice, then you don't need to have. It's enough to have only one shishim. Says the Ramah further. Says the Mechaber further. V'chol isur shirvat b'shishim. Ramah further. V'chol shirvat b'shishim. Ima kiroi tzarich l'tziri misham. Af agav lekvar nizbal time b'shishim. Here we have a case of a piece of meat with fat, chelev. So if you know where the Isser is, even if you have Shishim against it, you have to take out the Isser. If the Isser is identifiable, if it's able to identify it, you have to take it out. Therefore says the Ramah. If the Chayla fell into this Tafshin, when his battle time of Shishim and the time of the Chayla was battle of Shishim, still tzarich litin shamayim. So you don't even have to take out cold water. If you put cold water with Chayla, the Teva that the Chayla comes out and floats on top. You see that? I have to take the Chayla out of there. Why? The ma'achar the after lasiro you have the ki'idu makir tzarich hasim. Since you have the ability to take it to be makir, to go find the Isser, you have to go ahead and do it and put cold water and make sure this piece of Chayla comes out. Now we have what happens if there's no shishim and he took out Chayla? The Bach says even then it's mutter. The Bach says that Chayla, once you take out the Chayla, the fats, once you take out, the tafshil is mutter, which means you're matzliach to take out everything. You're able to take out not only when you take out the Chayla, you take out all the taste. The Tafshach disagree. They say, what do you mean? The whole entire mixture, the whole entire pot got taste from the Chayla. You can't. If the whole entire pot got taste from the Chayla, who cares if they took out the Chayla? The whole entire pot is now also, and therefore they hold that it's like a regular Isser. Once the Isser gets mixed into the mixture, and you can't tell the Isser, you can't see the Isser anymore. So then it is, you can't see the Isser anymore. So then you're allowed to, you can't see the Isser. You took that out already, but the taste was already given. So therefore, even if after you take out the fats, it remains also. And that's what Maskin the Maisik the Taz in the shop. Now we have a little bit of, here we have Hanan B'Kalim. Here we're going to have a little bit of halakha to understand the halakha over here of Hanan B'Kalim. First of all, as Agdama, what's B'chlal Hanan? What's Chati Chanas is Nevela? We explained it a few times, and we'll explain it again. Chati Chanas Nevela means as follows. Let's say I have a pot of vegetables and a piece of meat fell into the vegetables, and there's no shishim in the vegetables against the meat, we say the chati chanas is available. All the vegetables also become usur. They become totally usur as if they become a piece, as if they're a piece of meat, and therefore everything becomes usur. Chati chanas is available. Now we have a question. What happens if the Chati Chanas as Nevela didn't happen in the food itself, but it only happened in what was within the pot. We have a lot of tastes which are in the pot. They're balua in the pot, and only over there they become Chati Chanas Nevela. Let's see a case. Case was 7 o'clock a.m. I have chazais of milk in the pot. 9 o'clock a.m. I have basar in the pot. So I have in the pot. First, I cooked a chazais of milk fell into the pot, and then afterwards meat fell into the pot. Now, in the entire tafshil, there was shishim against these two kazaisim. This is kazais basar, kazais of not kazaisim. There's more basar. There's only a kazais of chalav, and there was basar was, let's say, 5 kazaisim were cooked into the pot, and then I cooked afterwards a pot of vegetables. Now, in the pot of vegetables, there is shishim against side the chalav and side the basar, and therefore the tafshil does not become basar. Now, what happens if the tafshil is spilled out? You spilled out the vegetables. You spilled out the vegetables, but what happened was, or you spilled out the meat. Yeah, you cooked meat in this pot, and there is shishim in the entire pot against all the kazayas cholav of the morning of 7 o'clock. Now you spilled out at 9 o'clock. You spilled out all the meat that you cooked. You spilled out. What remains? What remains within the pot? In the pot remains the kazayas of cholav, which was cooked in the pot, and the meat. So the tafshil is mutter. Why? Because it was 60 against it, and therefore the tafshil never became usher of the cholav. But now the tafshil is spilled out. If we're going to take a look in the walls, we're going to have a microscope of looking through the walls of the pot. What are we going to see? We're going to now the pot is still boiling hot, and we have a kazayis of milk, and we have more than a kazayis of basar within the pot. Do I say nevela? Do I say that all of this pot, all of the balua in the pot, all of this meat which is balua in the pot became now chanan, and therefore the entire pot became asur, and therefore tomorrow when I want to cook vegetables in this pot, I need to have shishim in the vegetables against the whole entire pot. If I don't say chanan in the blios of the pot, what's going to happen? Then I won't need to. If I want to cook vegetables or if I want to cook meat, I won't need to have shishim against the kazayis of cholav. But if I do say chanan, and therefore the blios of the cholav and the blios of the basar which were in the pot, now there is no shishim. They still can become chanan. And therefore, what I don't know exactly how much meat was within the pot. If tomorrow I'm going to cook vegetables, I need to have shishim against everything which was balua in the pot. Is that understood? One more time. In the morning, I cooked the chazais of challah. I cooked the chazais of milk, and now I cooked basar. I cooked a full pot of meat. At 9 o'clock. Now I spilled out the meat. Now the question is, it's still hot. So now I don't have shishim already. So before I spilled it out, there was always shishim against the chalav and never became asur. Now I spilled it out. So now what's left? Only in the walls, within the walls of this pot is a bali of basar. So if I say chanan, I do say chanas the chanan within balua b'kelim. Even what's within inside the walls of the kelim, I say chanan. So therefore, now this kazayis of chalav now became asur. There's no shishim in the walls against it, so therefore all the blias of the basar within the walls of the pot also become chanan. So the whole entire pot becomes chanan. And now if I cook vegetables, I need 60 against the entire pot, not only against the kazayis of chalav. So that's the question. So here we have a machlekes rishenim. Do I say chanan in mashe balua b'kelim? According to the Ramban, we don't say chanan, which is below the kelim, and therefore tomorrow we cook if it's a kazayis isur, or if it's tomorrow if we cook the next day of meat in the pot, we only need to have shishim against what? Against the chalav. All the blios of the basar which is in the pot, they don't become us. What's the svara that Ramban? Two brings two reasons. Reason number one is Teda Aser is derech bishul. Derech bishul also Teda. Timing within the walls of the pot is not considered derech bishul. It's not reason number. That's reason number one. Reason number two is because the Teda says we learn tuma from. We learn in Hilchos Sefer we learn from tuma. Tuma we don't have an isra of balua by tuma. Therefore, so if it's a balua on the kli, we don't have isra of we don't say isra of what's balua in the kli. That's the shita of the Ramban. The Rashba holds that we do say chatichanas nevela what's below. Even what's within the walls of this pot is still going to become asur, and therefore we need shishim against everything of the kli. If we cooked first the kazai is chalav, and then afterwards basar, and then tomorrow the whole entire kli became basar chalav, and tomorrow we're going to need 60 against the whole kli, which usually they don't have. You should, so if it's going to ask if I'm going to cook tomorrow a pot of vegetables. That's the halacha l'maisa. The mechaber brings the both shittis, but he brings the bistam. He brings the rashba. So therefore, it looks like the mechaber is assets. Let's see the mechaber inside. If we know how much the isser is, you're going, for example, kaf chadasha, a brand new kaf, or it's not, it's already 24 hours past, and therefore it's not basyema. Shenir ba ubala kazai is chalav. Now there's a kazai is chalav in this pot. Near bagdela shel basar, ein tzarich el samach levatel kazai shel. And we don't say we need to have samach. We only need to have samach only to battle the kazais. Ava kafishan. We're going to skip it a more second. Ava kafishan o bas yoima. Then we hold the rashba, and therefore it's already bas yoima, and therefore misharim b'kula. The kol mashabal naset isur v'leidin and kambala, and we say that also in the funis in the balua chaticha naset nevela, and therefore when misharim b'kula. If for tomorrow we're going to cook a pot of vegetables, it's not enough to have. It's not enough to have against the kazayis of, let's say, of isur. We'll need to be mishar v'kula. We'll need to, the whole entire kli becomes chaticha naset nevela of the balua, and we're going to have shishim against the entire pot. That's the mechaber b'stam passes like the rashba. Then he brings the name v'yesh mishaymer that what. He brings the Raman v'yesh mishaymer that what we don't need to have samach to mevatel the kazai shabala. I don't say in the funis in the balua chaticha nasis nevela, and therefore if a piece of treifa meat falls, a kazai of treifa meat falls into the pot, and I have balua of isur in the pot. It's started, and I only need samach against the pagul. Fine. Then the Rama says that's very shayne ikra. We pass in the machmek the rashbuk. Much is brother that we keep scholars not collected. If you learn before Moshe. Okay. Now we have one more discussion. Interesting discussion. Do I say by a kli, does the kli itself become a chaticha nasis nevela? Let's go see. We have two types of kelim. We have one kli which is called kli matris, metal kelim, and we have one type of kli which is called kli cheres, which is earthenware kelim. Halacha tells us that something which is bekli cheres, you can't do a gala on a kli cheres. By a pot, generally you could do a gala on pots, unless there's some Teflon pots that you can't. But generally speaking, you could do hagala on a pot, and you could take out this. Now we have a Mordechai. And the Mordechai, the Rama quotes the Mordechai, and we have a fundamental machlokes between the Taz and the Shach, how to understand this Mordechai. Let's read it inside, and then we're going to explain it. Says the Rama as follows: doesn't matter if it's Chodesh or Yoshin, like we said before. Rag ben kli cheres is shar kelim. Ve'emim de bekli cheres tiyef shel ha'apri surah de agala avner pinachas nevela. Avalei v'shar kelim mitei lachush lechom. The Mordechai says a very big chiddush according to the Taz. We're going to first do the way Taz learned it, then we're going to see the way the Shach understands it. The Mordechai says that by a kli cheres we have a special din of chaticha nasis nevela. The entire kli, until now we were talking about what? We're talking about the belua and the kli. Here he wants the Taz understands the Mordechai that we're talking about the Kli itself. Since the Kli itself, the piece of Cheres, the fact is you can't take out the Isser through Agala, so the Kli Nas is Nevel. That we say that if you cook the kazayis of Chelid, let's say you took a kazayis of Isser in this earthenware pot, in this Kli Cheres, so the entire Kli becomes an Avela. We need, if you're going to cook tomorrow another pot of vegetables within this pot, you need to have shishim against the entire pot. The entire pot became an Avela. Till now, we discussed that what becomes an Avela food or blies within the pot, things which were belua in the pot. That the Mordechai says, according to the Taz, that the pot itself becomes an os. The pot itself, chaticha nas is nevela. So therefore, it's as if the entire pot becomes one shtik iser, and we'll need to have shishim against the pot. Not regardless if it was belua, if it was blias or not, the pot itself becomes also a tremendous condition to say that. But that's what the Taz understands the Mordechai face. He stands the Mordechai face value. And he says that if you have a kazayis within a Kli Cheres, it's a very big chumrah. You're always going to have shishim against the entire Kli Cheres. That's committed by us by all these type of pots, of Teflon pots, and all these type of pots that you can't do agala on them. And they're belea, even a little bit of the isur. The entire, if you're going to cook, if it's belea kazayis isur, if you're going to cook tomorrow on regular vegetables, you need to have shishim not against the kazayis itchu which is beleh, but against the entire Teflon pot. You have to have shishim against it because you can't do agala. According to the Mordechai, if it's matches, it's even more. It could be even paskins like the Ramban. Could be, it says by mateches we say it could be that we don't say even by the blias we don't say chatichanas in the bed. But by the earthenware, it's even more chamer mateches, and we say not only that the belua is also, but we say that the piece itself, that the shtickle pot itself becomes chatichanas in the bed. That's how the Taz explains. Taz edivla iser b'chli cheres, the kli atzmei hoyvich lis chatichanas in the bed. That's how the Taz understands the mark. Says the Shach, there's no such a thing. There is no such a thing that the pot itself should become unavailable. Pot can't become unavailable. Pot is not food. Pot is a piece of earthenware. A pot doesn't become unavailable. The Mordechai was discussing, came to in this machlokes that we had between the Rashba and the Ramban. We're talking about the bliyos in the kli. What was below on the kli? The Rashba said, I do say what Hanan and what's below on the kli. The Ramban said, I don't say what's Hanan and what's below on the kli. In this specific machlokes, what do I say? I say that it depends. If it's a kli mateches, I'm going to pass it like Ku, I'm going to pass it like the Rashba, and I'm going to be I'm going to pass it like the Ramban. I'm going to be mekel. Why? Because by a kli mateches I can do a gola. Therefore, it's a kli that's the beliefs that are not so strong. I could detach them, and therefore there I'm going to be mekel and say that we don't say chanan by belua b'kelim, but by a kli cheres. There I do say chanan which is belua b'kelim. The Mordechai is not coming with some major chidushim telling you that a piece of meat that chanan is not only by food but it's also by utensils. There's no such a thing. A utensil cannot become a shtickle nevela. Only our food can become. But then in your machlokes Rashba and Ramban that you want to say, Rashba says that what I don't say below. Ramban wants to say I don't say below. Rashba says I do below b'kelim. Here in this case, I'm going to be machriya, so to speak, in the machlokes. I'm going to tell you that in Cheres, I'm going to say that what. I'm going to be machmir like the Rashba, but by the mateches, I'm going to be mekel like the Ramban. So the Mordechai is not coming to be machmir; he's coming to be mekel. Till now, what would we pass? We pass like the Rashba through and through, and we said that side by matches and side by cheres. What's the lachal? I do say chatichanas in the veil one's belua b'kli. Comes the Mordechai and says, no, in Mateches, you could be Meiko, be Machriya. So it gives us more of a justification that in the case of Mateches, I should rely on who? I should rely on the Ramban. Till now, without the Mordechai, the way the Taz learns the Mordechai, the Mordechai is coming to be total extreme to be Machne. According to the Shach learns the Mordechai, we have Afka Snif Lahakil. That don't until now you only took the Rashba through and through, and you said that even by a Kli Mateches, even there I'd say that the Belia has become Chatichanas Nevela. Don't say that. By a Mateches, you could be Mekel. Now, what does the Ramah say? The Ramah says, Tev Lachush Lechumra. We should be Machne. What does that mean? So again, according to the Taz, what does that mean? According to the Taz, that means that you should be Machmir, that by the piece of earthenware, even if a Kazais becomes of Isser, becomes Balua in the Kli, you should always need Shishim against the entire Kli. It's a very big Chumrah. And then in Taz passes the Halacha Lamaisa. But by the Shach, when the Ramah comes and says Tev Lachush L'Chumra, these words are really coming to become Mekel, because it says Lachush L'Chumra. That what? Then in the case of a Machloik of the Ramban and the Rashba, the Mordechai said that what? That I have a place to be Mekel by Mateches. So the Ramah says Lachush to be L'Chumra. You have a reason to be Lachush to be Machmer. But what? Only Lachush. What's if it happens to Merubah? So I could be Nitzad the Mordechai to the Ramban, and by Mateches I have more of a smart to be Mekel. According to the Avon of the Shach in the Ramah, the Ramah is coming to give me a sniff to be Mekel by a case of Mateches. That in the case of Mateches, I can rely not only on the Ramban, but also on the Mordechai. Then he says Mateches. So Lachush L'Chumra. Good. Usually you should try to be Machmer Mateches like the Rashba. But in the case of a little bit of I have some Merubah, then I walk and I have two Paskin. Outside the Ramban, inside the Mordechai. So it comes out according to the Shach and Fakir, the Ramah bought the Mordechai, it actually became more of a kula in this halacha. So let's go see now the way it works out. Let's go see from Basa V'chalav and to Shari Shloim. Basa V'chalav according to the Taz. So if it's Cheres Asmenes, the Ramah took on the Chumrah of the Mordechai according to the Taz's understanding of the Mordechai, that what? That the Kli itself becomes Asur. If it's Mateches V'Eitz, if it's metal or eights, then only the Belua is also. Then I pass him like who? I pass him like the Rashba, that all the Belua becomes also I say Chatichanas on the Belua. Shach disagrees with the Taz and he holds no. All the Belua becomes also. The Kli itself, no. Not such a thing, but the Belua only becomes also. And by Hefset Merubah, I have rely on the Mordechai and the Ramban, and I could say that the Belua in the Mateches will be fine. That's all by Basar B'chol. By Shari Surim, I've already another sniff. What's another sniff? There are some people who don't hold the Machaber doesn't hold Chanan by Shari Surim. Only their mother. So here it can be already will make it. On one hand, I say that all the Belua is necessary. The Kli itself for sure not, but the Belua is also. But if it's a little bit of a Hesed already, I could be Makir. Even if it's a little bit of Hesed, why? Because every Atziru. Say the Pasuk in the hall that what? I don't say Chanan V'Shari Surim. Say the Rashba. Say the Ramban said I don't say Belua Chanan Belua Bakir. Therefore, by Hesed Katan, I could be Mekel. Is it understood? Any questions? Fine. We learn another few sifim, and we're going to stop. What happens if a half of Kazais of Isser falls into Heter, and in Shishim Chatzoy they say Heter Batli. This is a story in the Gemara. Margaret Ravashi said maybe half of Isser you need to have only Shloishim. You don't need to have Shishim. So, but that's what Margaret Ravashi wanted to say. But Ravashi doesn't know, even though it's a half Isser. Whatever the Isser is, you need to have Shishim against it. And therefore, that's the pas naloch that even the half the zayis of Yisur, you need to have shishim chazayik zayis levatil. And even if it's Yisur only with the rabbanon, you still need to have shishim against it. Now here in Siv Zayin and Siv Ches, we're going to discuss, even though generally speaking we say that everything, all these surim, you need to have shishim. Here we're going to discuss a few yitzim in the klal. Yitzim in the klal number one is beitza sheyesh by froya, like tipas dam, a beitza of Isur. How could it be usur, or if it has within it a froyach, or a piece of, or a shtickle blood. There you need 61. Generally speaking, you need 60, but here I need 61. Why do I need 61? Here are machlekes of the Rambam and the Ramban. According to the Rambam, why the Beitz has a din of a machashiv burial. And since the Beitz has a din of machashiv burial, therefore there are meisiv also the share bittul. Since it's like a machashiv thing, it's a Beitz is like a chashiv zach. If the Beitz is a chashiv zach, therefore you need to have a little bit more, and therefore 61. The Ramban says because there's Beitz, there's different eggs which have different sizes. Therefore, if one egg falls in 60 eggs, it could be that other eggs are a bit bigger. So shishim eggs is not enough. Therefore, Chazal say that we need to have 61 against the Beitz. What's the nafkaminus between them? Nafkaminus number one is what happens if the Beitza was already was broken in within the other Beitza. It's not a shalom already. So according to the Rambam, it's enough shishim. Why? Because it's already not a burial. We learned the burial or any of these when the second it becomes cut up or becomes already not whole, loses its chivas, and therefore it would be enough shishim. But according to the Ramban, even though it's already cut up, it's already mixed in, still we need to have 60 because we're not sure how big it originally was. That's the first nafkamina. The second nafkamina is if it's a full beitza which got mixed in and then in the top shil, but not with beitza. The reason why the Ramban needed 61 is because it says we're not sure how big if the beitzim are big enough to be not. What happens if it got mixed into something else? Not beitzim. So according to the Rambam, we're going to need 61. According to the Ramban, it's still we're going to be enough to have shishim. Shach says the Maisa we need to have. We have to machmer side the Rambam, side the Ramban. In both cases, we need to have 61 against the beitzim. Fine. We this already the middle a little bit more. The rest of Sif Ches invited we're going to have which next year. We're going to try to do Sif, finish up Tzadik Ches, Tzadik Tes, and we're start touching on Kof. And last year we're going to do Aleph Beis Kof Gimel. Hopefully, could be one more year. We'll finish the Chazara and we'll be getting ready for the test and Mirza Hashem afterwards. Okay. Atzlach and Abba, are there any more questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you.